Hello and welcome, this is Noah with Nomad Gaming, and we are here with a video for the Marvel Champions LCG, which is a living card game produced and distributed by Fantasy Flight Games. Today we have a player card review for the Iron Man Hero set. We're going to cover the hero, the signature cards, the archenemy and villain cards, and how he plays with each aspect. So without further ado, let's blast into this. As you will know, Marvel Champions heroes come as a two-sided player identity card that start on their alter ego face-up. Iron Man is one of the 5 heroes included with the core set, and we can see that Tony Stark is the alter ego for Iron Man. So, let's do an in-depth look at the statistics that we get when we choose everyone's favorite genius. Here we see that his initial HP is low, but can be heavily boosted with his suit and upgrades that we'll talk about later. Average hand size on alter ego side, but dismal on the hero side. However, when we talk about balancing this out in just a moment with some of the upgrades that he'll get, I think we'll see why that's the case. 3 recover is a tad low, but he will have a big HP, so do we even need to recover? And on the hero side, you're going to see that 2-1-1 stat line with thwart, attack, and defense, which is a little subpar, but nobody really thinks that we're going to be playing this without our suit. So let's take a deeper look at the character's abilities before we jump into those signature cards and see how they work. As the alter ego, Tony has the Futurist Ability, which allows him to rip through the deck to find pieces of his suit. Early in the game, this feels like a race against time, but it's definitely a help in getting things set up. Although this ability is going to guarantee that you get your important upgrades, the downside is definitely going to be that you move through your deck pretty quickly and that you're going to take a couple extra encounter cards once you've cycled through your deck. Over on the hero side, though, we can see the payoff for some patience in the alter ego side. Iron Man boasts the Avenger trait and has a static ability that gives +1 hand size for each tech upgrade. Conveniently, his suit consists of exclusively tech upgrades, so this is how we're going to balance and fix that low hand side or size on this side of the card. Running around with a hand size of 7 is nothing that we're going to scoff at, especially when that hand is full of massive damage available in Tony's signature cards. Again, Iron Man is going to run through your deck quickly, but hopefully the game doesn't last very long after you've got your suit set up. Now that we know that our hero can do on his own, let's go ahead and take a look at what he's going to bring to the game in the form of his signature cards. Of course, each hero has 15 signature cards that are included in their deck every game. For Iron Man, this pool definitely packs a super-powered punch. We already know how important it is for the suit in the long game, so the first objective in each game is going to be setting up or building that suit. Tony's ability is going to be our first tool to accomplish this, but the signature pool comes with Stark Tower, which is also good at letting us get those important upgrades back from the discard pile. This card can give us a lot of nifty tricks and things to keep rolling. First, we could use a piece of the suit to pay for something else, and then we can exhaust Stark Tower to pop that back into our hand and play it. Second option could be that you don't always have to take the armor when you're filtering through with Tony. You could take like a double resource card and then chuck out that armor and then use Stark Tower to pull that back and kind of get the 2-for-1 going on with your extra card draw there. Of course, a large portion of the signature pool is going to be Tony's suit, which is where we can take a deeper look at here, jumping across to our next screen. Taking a look at this, we see that each piece of the suit can exhaust for some benefit or action that boosts that paltry 2-1-1 stat line. Going from top to bottom down the suit, you can see here that the helmet is going to give us a thwart of 1, and if we're in aerial mode, we can do 1 thwart or take 1 threat off of each scheme. The gauntlets, which we get to wear 2 of, 1 for each hand, will deal 1 direct damage. 2 instead if we are in aerial mode, more on that in a second. The arc reactor can ready Iron Man, but only in hero mode. The Mark V reactor gives us +6 HP. The boots, which we can again wear 2 of, add 1 HP each, and then either one of them could be activated to help us go flying using a mental resource. And so with a full suit of armor, we see that we're going to be able to get +8 HP, taking us up to a total of 17. 2 activations on Iron Man from that arc reactor. We're going to get either one or more threat taken away per turn, depending on how many schemes we have out and whether we're in aerial mode, and we could do 2 or 4 damage per turn if we have both gloves out and we can get into aerial mode. And just like any good infomercial, you might be amazed to find out that that's not all we get in this signature pool. In addition to a behemoth suit, we're going to get 5 low-cost events to finish off our bad guys. First off, we're going to look at the 1-cost Repulsor Blast, which we're going to get 3 of in this deck. It is an attack superpower that says hero action, attack, deal 1 damage to an enemy and discard the top 5 cards of your deck. For each printed energy resource discarded this way, deal 2 additional damage to that enemy. That's right, it is possible to live the dream and deal up to 13 damage for just 1 resource. On our second event, Supersonic Punch, it's a 2-cost attack event that reads hero action attack. Deal 4 damage to an enemy, 8 damage instead if you have the aerial trait. This is solid direct damage here, and it just gets better when we go flying. Not to mention that resource icon is an energy resource. You may think that that's all we have from Iron Man, but would you be surprised again if we tell you that there is even more? That's right, not only do we get the best suit of armor in the game, 2 of the best events in the game, we're going to get resource fixing here with Pepper, a signature ally who can come in and fix our resources at just the right moment. As for Pepper, of course, Iron Man is nothing without Pepper, smoothing it all out. She is designed to do just that. She can exhaust to generate resources off of the top card of your discard pile, and this game has some specific rules about how things do end up in your bin, but if you follow them, you can plan out carefully having those 2 energy cards show up on top and get an extra use or 2 out of them using Pepper pots. Not to mention, she can help get you those mental resources that you need if you need to blast off in your boots in a pinch. And then that signature ally, of course, is War Machine. War Machine is going to be a 4-cost ally with 1 thwart and 2 attack with 1 consequential damage for each action. He has 4 health and carries a shield and soldier keywords. He has the action exhaust War Machine and deal 2 damage to him to deal 1 damage to each enemy. There are going to be times when this is the best thing we can have happen, and others where we're just glad to have that wild resource icon. But hey, we got Rhodey, so we can't really complain. And that's going to close out the signature cards that we've got with Iron Man. But let's take a brief look at his Nemesis set and see what we get there. As Nemesis, we're going to get Whiplash. He is a 4 health, 2 scheme, 3 attack Nemesis minion. He has Retaliate 1, and so you're going to want to try to punch him out in 1 try to avoid picking up those extra points of damage throughout the rest of the attacks. He's going to come with a side scheme, Imminent Overload, which will come out with 3 threat plus 1 per player and has an acceleration icon, so you're going to want to get rid of that quickly. Whiplash's Treacheries are Electric Whip attack, which is going to deal damage equal to the number of upgrades you have or make you discard an upgrade. And just remember that Stark Tower is an upgrade, but it also gets back upgrades from the discard pile, so choices to be made there. His second treachery, Electromagnetic Backlash, is going to punish energy-heavy deck building, but at half of the rate that we could dish out the damage. So remember, your extra copies of Emergency could turn out to be useless and just throw damage back on you. Finally, our obligation business problems is going to make us choose between exhausted upgrades or an exhausted Tony, and honestly, I'm about 50-50 on this. Early in the game, we're going to exhaust some upgrades, but late in the game, we could do Tony and then refresh him with that arc reactor. I think the decision is going to be very situational, but what do you think? Have you guys had experience with this, and what choices are you making when you see the obligation for Tony Stark come out of the encounter deck? And that closes out the Iron Man set of cards that we're going to have from the core set. By way of overview, I would note that early in the game, we're playing to find the suit. But once we get 4 or 5 pieces, we don't have a lot of reasons to stay in Alter Ego unless we're trying to dig for something specific with that Futurist ability. I like to think of Tony and his suit as different assets. The suit can do the attacking and the thwarting, maybe even ready us. We can jump over to Tony to get some card filter, maybe activate the tower before hopping back into the suit and blasting more things. As far as deck building goes, you're going to want to add in some of that card draw and filtering if it's available. Energy resources have a big payoff in this deck and can be found in plenty of good of the plenty of good aspect cards. The Iron Man player really can do both thwart and attack, but really don't you just want to be trying to blast for 13 with Repulsor Blast? And finally, remember, you can use your health as a resource. It's a fine balance early in the game between piling up threat and damage on your hero until you're fully set up, but don't sleep on the extra benefits that you get from +8 health at full suit. Before we close this out, let's take a quick jump through the aspects and discuss some of the synergies and strategies that you might use in deck building for each one. In aggression, the energy icons are going to be very useful with Tony. Things like Hall of Heroes are going to give you card draw, but also have that energy icon you might need. Valkyrie is a great synergy with her icon and her ability to ready as well. Tony is very good at blowing things up, but if you need more direct damage, this is where you're going to get it. You've got all the aggression direct damage cards, so the synergy is pretty obvious. But is that just too tempting? Let's take a look at a couple of the other less blunt objects that we have in the other aspects. Justice is going to let us stay in Tony mode for as long as possible. Threat management is the star here, and it comes down to some great energy resource cards too. For Justice and Followed come to mind. The allies in Justice do a great job of taking care of everything while we sit in alter ego mode. Yes, that's right, I'm looking at you, Daredevil. And Great Responsibility is just wrong when you have 17 health to play around with. Looking at leadership, while I like the idea of leadership Iron Man, we should be honest that Tony isn't the best leader, and sometimes this may not always be his home. He's a little lean on useful energy icons, and the biggest perks of being in leadership Iron Man are going to be incidental card draw and the options that make the call opens up when we're putting 2/3 of our deck straight into the bin. Checking out protection, lastly, it comes up to us that this isn't a bad place where we could be Iron Man, especially not once you've got 17 health, and it really makes the healing here in the protection aspect and the defensive ability shine. But the lack of early game threat management might be the death knell for protection. There are great synergies with cards like Get Behind Me, Med Team, and Nova, but you have to make it to the mid game for these to get rolling. So if I didn't telegraph it well enough, I like Justice Iron Man, and I'm going to go ahead and give you one iteration of my Justice Iron Man deck to see what we did with Tony's superpowered heart. I'm not going to represent this as the most refined and perfect Justice build. I'd love to hear from you about how you build Justice Iron Man or what aspects you'd prefer to prepare with him and why. I do like the synergies that cards like Interrogation Room and Surveillance Team do. I've had really good success playing with those. And I do enjoy taking advantage of things like Lockjaw that have dual purpose in our deck, being able to pay for something going into the bin and then coming back out of it later, and something you don't mind getting discarded with Tony or one of your other discard abilities. And that's going to wrap us up for this Iron Man Hero review with Nomad Gaming. We hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, of course, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Feel free to check out our other videos and stay tuned to the channel for upcoming live play and more hero reviews. Until next time, though, let's go game.